This is an independent fan channel and is not affiliated with or endorsed by Hassanby. All content is created for commentary, education, and news purposes under fair use. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs, let's get started. She says China is not afraid as Beijing hits U.S. with 125% tariff. Let's get it started. Let's get it twisted. Lots to talk about today. China on the come up, China on the rise. You already know what it is. You already know you already know what it's about. Okay? What's that one song called? The Does anyone, do you know what I'm singing? Woman Jean. Yes, that's the one. Thank you, chatter. You immediately nailed it. I think I did a good job with that. Okay, I think I did a good job with that. All right, you feel me? You feel me? Here.
我们今生注定是沧桑，不知来要笑着走过呀，朋友啊，让我们一起牢牢铭记呀，我们今生兄弟情谊。我们今生注定是沧桑。
Okay, anyway, I'm gonna play that a lot today. Just so you know. I'll probably play that a decent amount today. Leave the singing to the video. Bro, I don't even know what he's saying. He's saying like crying when we came, we must walk with smiles. Our lives are destined to be full of, what is it? Vicissitudes or something? I don't even know what that word means. But it's just like, I don't know what the hell he's saying, but Unk is just going crazy with it. Unk has smoked so many bogues, like you can hear it in his voice after feeling sad. As a Chinese, always dies of cringe every time I listen to the song randomly on your stream law. Why? Also, as a Chinese, you should know that there have been numerous different pro-China phases at the Hassanby broadcast. Back in the day, it was, before it was Red Sun in the Sky, it was, what was it? I think it's like from Taiwan, actually, the famous, the other famous song that is like the intro song to a TV show. Oh yeah, Shu Hao Piao Piao. Shu Hao Piao Piao. Yeah, that's the one. Iecha is not Chinese, brother. It's freaking North Korean. That's crazy. Hassan is also Chinese and he doesn't cringe. Checkmate. Exactly. I'm white Chinese, man. I'm white Chinese. You already know this. Yeah, I was. So there's always been a different Chinese song, like a Mandarin song that I sing throughout various different phases of this broadcast over the course of the past like 6 years. So Brother How was the original. Oh yeah, I mean this is a totally separate. This is something different. This is something different. Like, what is happening with this fucking thing?
没有共产党就没有新中国，没有共产党就没有新中国。共产党辛劳为民主，共产党在拯救中国，他几个了人民解放的道路。
Bro, Brother How was so this man was so ahead of the curve. Like, think about it, dude. Think about how ahead of the game he was. This video is from like 2012. This guy didn't even see the one belt, one road. He was just like, I will be the belt. I will be the road. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, I can't wait for Chinese liberation. I can't wait for Chinese prosperity. I can't wait. It's crazy. He was the belt. I think they saw him and were like, we gotta connect. we gotta connect with Africa. Okay, all jokes aside, obviously, Maoist thought, Mao Zedong thought Maoism not only is perfectly applicable in African nations, but also was very popular at the time. But, you know, there's a period of when it kind of went away a little bit, and this guy brought it back, I think. So he was the belt and the road. It sounds like you would sing this in the shower for a couple of minutes until the shampoo bottle scares you out of it.
洒牺牲了民主诸多，没有共产党就没有新中国，没有共产党就没有新中国。一二三四，一二三四，随时雷锋啊，终于革命，终于党，爱党革命不。
Just remember BNR Belt and Road, not One Belt, One Road. It's both, by the way. I know people correct me, but like you can say Belt and Road or you can say One Belt, One Road. It's not. Someone corrected me on that before, but like I think initially it was called One Belt, One Road. Yeah, it's a direct translation. I feel like, I don't know why, I feel like he's Black Brace Belden. Like he is, I don't know where he's from. Someone in the chat said Nigerian, but like he is the Brace Belden. He was just locked in. Anyway, record this yourself and send it as your audition tape. Yeah. One Belden, one road. Brace for the one Belden. All right. This is what you're looking for. What? This?
花飘飘，北风下下，田野一片苍白。一见寒梅，好比雪中，只为一人飘香。花树外，无怨无悔。
Classic. Have you listened to the Tronon episode in Chinese? Yeah, I got annoyed that they actually straight up posted it in Mandarin in its entirety. That was hella annoying because I thought it was just a meme. I thought the episode was going to be just a meme and like the beginning was going to be in Mandarin. They were going to be like, haha, just kidding. Like, nope. They did the whole thing. They did an entire podcast for like 2 hours and then they put it through the AI Mandarin translation app and made it entirely in Mandarin. It's worse than the last time when they did the pro-Israel bit. It was an old ep, I think. Yeah, last year, I think it was their April Fool's episode last year was when they were going to talk about, you know, how they're actually technically pro-Israel or something, or hear from the Israeli side, and it's just crying noises the entire time. At least I knew that was not, at least I knew to click away from that one. But the Mandarin one, I was just like, was scrolling through and I'm like, is it going to change? Or is it just going to be Mandarin the entire time? What the is happening? They did an AOC interview. Oh, I didn't even know that one. I didn't even see that one. Pro-Israel bit. Are you sure about that? Yes, I'm sure about that. Anyway, all memes aside, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right. Trade standoff, trade war, tariff standoff. China digs in. Let's take a look.
Digging in. Americans are waking up to a whole new escalation in the global trade war. Beijing is hiking its retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods today from 84% to 125%. And for the first time since this all started, we're actually hearing from the Chinese President Xi Jinping himself. Xi saying that his nation is, quote unquote, not afraid, and also warning, quote, there are no winners in a trade war and going against the world will only lead to self-isolation. This after President Trump raised tariffs on Chinese goods even higher, 145% now, as we're all trying to keep track. The White House says they're waiting for China to pick up the phone. China.
We're so dumb. We're so stupid. I'm sorry. There will come a point where the bottom will fall out of this. And I think Americans will come to the cold, hard realization, like getting slapped in the face with some very cold water to hopefully shake you out of this stupor, that we don't have the motion that we think we have when it comes to global trade, at least. Like, I've been saying this for so long. I've been saying this nonstop. And I'm telling you right now, like, I think given the Chinese track record, Xi will most likely extend a helping hand at a certain point. Given their track record, given their track record, given what they always do, given the restraint that they demonstrate with regular frequency, I suspect that China will bail us out again. Okay? And I don't mean just like in the 2008 style situation, because they want stability. They want stability. They want the regular business as usual politics to continue so they can continue along their journey of development. And it's very frustrating. It is very, very frustrating that America is trying to up the world in this incredibly and move it into this unsustainable place with no discernible, tangible policy goals attached to it. It is a real I'm up global trade because I'm bored moment from the Trump administration. I'm telling you right now, I know, I've read the tea leaves. I'm telling you, I know what their actual stated goals are. I know what the marketing of said goals look like. I know what they're trying to do. I know what the American trade agenda is and has been. And yet I recognize how disordered this is. I do agree China will probably budge first, but I don't know. Trump and Xi's relationship is very inconsistent and confusing. I don't think that this is about the personal relationship between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. I think this is about stability and what China wants. We often ascribe our own personal ambition and motivations and project that upon our enemies, China being the enemy in this conversation. They are not in the business, at least at this stage, they're not in the business of global dominance. So you're making the prediction that China blinks first. I don't think it's even a blinking situation. I think it will, at this point, given the runway that China has, both due to its own internal governance, due to the fact that it's a command economy, due to the fact that it has so much manufacturing power, there is no blinking first. If China wanted to, here's what a country that would actually want to dominate the globe would do in this circumstance. I'm Chinese, okay? Let's say I'm Chinese. What do I do in this situation, okay? I'm one of Xi Jinping's advisors. I'm one of those guys that's like, I don't want stability, okay? I want to destroy America. I want to destroy the dollar. You know what I would do? I would go to all of our trading partners, all of the Asian trading partners, the European trading partners, set up trade deals, tell them we will actually not flood your marketplace with our goods that are going to wipe out your own domestic economies. We're going to play ball with you, but on the one condition that you just short the American dollar to the best of your ability. Just at a moment where the American reserves are at its weakest, where confidence is diminished in the dollar, we will now move in the direction of de-dollarization. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. There's a lot of foreign debt. Like a lot of foreign nations, Japan, China, many of these countries own a lot of the American foreign debt. You could just forcibly claw that away from the United States of America because China, unlike the United States of America right now, has more industrial stability. Like China and the yuan could technically become the global trade currency. It's not something that is in their interest overall. But if they wanted to dominate the globe, they could do that. This is a great opportunity for them. Just like it was a great opportunity for them to forcibly take Taiwan if they wanted to do so when America was too busy dealing with Israel and dealing with Ukraine and Israel at the same time. But they didn't do that. Why didn't they do that? Why didn't they do that? Because perhaps they're a lot more restrained and a lot more focused on the future than we are, that they don't want to rock the boat. So this is precisely the reason why I don't think that they're going to do any of those things. This is precisely the reason why I think they're going to inevitably offer a lending hand. They're going to extend a hand of help to the United States of America, even though America's up global trade on its own right now. America is doing an own goal. And don't tell me what Asman is saying. Asman is saying China started this war because they steal and copy products. Stop. We're talking about people who are adults, who are PhDs and famous economists who are dropping the ball and failing to comprehend what is actually happening, what is actually unfolding in front of their eyes. And you're telling me about Asmongold? What the does he know about global trade? Shut up! The knowledgeable people are also oblivious to what is happening in front of their eyes. And you're telling me about like a dude with cockroaches that are all over him. Who cares what his take is on this? Are you kidding me? He's just repeating whatever the Republicans are saying, okay? And they know even less. What are you talking about? Like if there was a tier list of people who are oblivious to what the is going on here, I think Asmongold wouldn't be too high up there, especially because the Republicans that he is channeling and repeating the talking points of are also oblivious. Anyway, with the way bond yields have already risen drastically, if all the foreign bondholders mass sold it would cause yields to skyrocket and America would default on their debts to the American bondholders. That's what I'm saying. I feel like, look, I'm not an economist and I'm not the most knowledgeable on this stuff. It is a little confusing to me, for sure. But I do feel like if there was an opportunity to destabilize the United States of America, this would be the very opportunity to do so. All you need is a couple, maybe like Japan, or at least a couple trade partners that hold a lot of American treasuries to just force America to default on their debt. Something that hasn't ever happened because it is the globe. It can't happen because the entire global trade is on the American dollar. It is the most stable thing that you can buy into. And I think that that would create so much instability that obviously China doesn't want that. And it's crazy because like in some ways, I think Donald Trump is basically forcing China's hand to play ball by unironically nuking itself. Because if America nukes itself and the entire global trade system collapses, everyone is China is as well. They're less than America, but everyone is. So it's the Nixonian madman theory in action. But instead of saying we're going to nuke our enemies, Donald Trump is literally about to press the nuclear button to nuke America. Do you see what I'm saying? It is unironically the Shane Gillis clip. Like that is Donald Trump's madman theory, is just putting a gun to his mouth and going, oh, I'll pull the trigger. I'll pull it. Yeah. If no one wants to purchase the U.S. dollar, if no one has confidence in the U.S. dollar, which is the currency that global trade is done on, that means it's over. Okay. The American hegemony has perished and has perished in a much shorter timeline than a country like China would want. I'm deporting myself to Mexico. There is nowhere. The irony is you can't go anywhere. You can't go anywhere. If the dollar collapses, right? If the dollar collapsed tomorrow, there is nowhere that you can go to. Like nowhere is safe. America is the world. This is what I always stress to people, where it's like, people will be like, Hassan, have you ever thought about leaving America and going somewhere? And I'm like, going where? There's nowhere I can go to. You know what I mean? There's not really anywhere I can go that is outside of the sphere of influence of empire, except maybe like China, Russia, North Korea, or Iran. But even then, if global trade collapses in its entirety, even those places are not safe either. There's just nothing. There's instability all around. How would they benefit by America being around longer? Easy. The current existing global trade scheme that the United States of America has designed, where we exploit the global south for basically slave wages, and in exchange for just a paper IOU that we give them that we can print permanently, everybody gets to, or not everybody, but China at least gets to develop. Okay. And that's kind of the problem here, because out of all of these countries that we have exploited through this exact same scheme, China is the only one that has been able to develop and become a competitive power. If you follow the World Trade Organization or any number of different like geopolitical experts that talk about the global economy, that are neoliberals themselves or love capitalism, and they constantly talk about how bountiful capitalism has been for the third world, this is unironically what they are technically pointing to. China, in the ways that it has developed itself over the course of multiple decades through foreign capital coming in and then engaging in like even distribution of said foreign capital, has been able to do the thing that these guys claim other countries are doing. But if they do the thing that these guys always say, which is global capitalism has uplifted the entire planet and taken them out of poverty, it's a wonderful thing. If all of these countries had actually done that, America would collapse. This is the reality. And the only reason why China's been able to do it is because China does have a long-term stability vision. Do people not understand the sheer scale of American consumption? Nowhere is capable of instantly filling that void if our economy collapses. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about the entire global trade system collapsing, not just because the American consumption engine has fallen apart, but also because the dollar is no longer sustainable. Everything you know, everything that you think of is everything you know and everything that you think of revolves around like one singular global reserve currency being the currency that has the most stability that everyone can do trade over. It's backed by not just the American assets, which there's plenty of, but it's also backed by 800 military bases around the planet. This is the entire game. It would basically cause a global reset. Bitcoin not, right? Yeah, I love people that say Bitcoin because they think that the energy grids that Bitcoin needs would be running. Yeah, dude, Bitcoin, for sure. Bitcoin will save us. The only way Bitcoin will save us is if China owned all the Bitcoin, okay, and controlled it. And then we could instantly switch over to Bitcoin as the global currency somehow. It just wouldn't happen. Anyway, let's continue.
It says essentially the same thing about the United States. This very clearly showing what a tit for tat looks like, sending markets tumbling Thursday. But President Trump still optimistic when meeting with his.
USA is 30% of our consumption. 30% of consumption, top 10% of incomes is over 50% of our local consumption. If prices rise, it would only affect the lower 90% in the US. This roughly translates to 15% globally. I think we're overestimating our worth. I think you're misunderstanding. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something entirely different than our consumption engine. I think our consumption power is significant for global trade. In terms of our relationship with China, it's not negligible, but it's negligible enough for China to basically weather the storm. But that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about what could potentially happen if another world power that has the capability of becoming the global reserve currency, which I don't even think China has at this point, or at least has the appetite to become that at this point, because that would require too much foreign intervention, way more than I think what China would choose to do at this stage. It would completely collapse at this stage. If the dollar collapsed and it started defaulting, all of a sudden the entire system is broken. It is the very nature of the dollar's inability to collapse that makes it the global reserve currency in which trade is conducted on. I'm talking about the entire system collapsing, which is crazy because I think Donald Trump, as stupid as he is, kind of understands that reality, which is why he's just basically forcing all of these vassal states to do this double tithing system where not only have we benefited from offering IOUs to other countries with profound dollar purchasing power where we don't have to do the manufacturing, we just get to, take over the benefits. But then also on top of that, now you have to pay us for the privilege of us dominating the entire planet with our global reserve currency status, while simultaneously you have to pay us for that privilege, and there's not really anything you can do about it because if it falls apart, then everything falls apart. Yeah, it's a real have you said thank you once type situation to the rest of the planet. But like I said, if China truly had the ambition that we ascribe to them in terms of dominating the globe, this is their moment. They would just America right now. They would literally the entire planet right now, crash the dollar, turn around and say, well, you guys sure need a manufacturing engine, a country that is stable, a country that has a lot of industrial output, a country that, controls 50+% of all chemicals procured, a country that dominates in sectors like, some of the leading tech sectors like 80% of drones coming out of China, all that sort of stuff. Like a country like that could become the global hegemonic superpower and rewrite the entire rules of global trade. Obviously, I don't think that is something that they're interested in. They could sell their dollar reserves and U.S. Treasury bonds and occupy Taiwan in the same day. Exactly. I mean, or if they could have occupied Taiwan when America was busy with Israel and Ukraine and getting dicked on. If they wanted to up the bag, if they were truly as belligerent as we claim they are, which is pure projection and nothing else, there are many opportunities for them to do so. So I think right now, when they say we're going to fight till the very end, I think it's just a moment where China is showing the world how unstable America is. But I do think that inevitably they will offer a helping hand to fix the situation in spite of America's inability or interest in stabilizing global trade. There will be a little gift, I think, that Xi will give after making everyone around the globe understand how unstable the United States of America is, where one singular psycho could just completely nuke global trade in its entirety. Once everyone is assuredly familiar with American instability, he will turn around and he'll be like, yeah, we'll fix it. Don't worry. That's my suspicion. This doesn't mean that things are going to be good in the interim for Americans in general, and especially the American working class. It certainly will not. There's going to be a lot of unstable times in our immediate future. Having said that, that's my prediction. Maybe I'm wrong, you know? How does he fix it? He offers a aesthetic assurance to Donald Trump that makes Trump feel like he won something out of this. And every dumb piglet in America is cackling like the hyenas that they are, that like, we did it. We dominated China. We're still number one, baby. Hell yeah. That's what it is. That's what I think is going to happen, because these guys know how to manipulate this moron. Okay. That's the reason why this moron constantly says, oh, Xi Jinping, we're good friends. He likes me. I like him. We got very good relationships. Like, every single smart statesman knows how to manipulate this donkey. Okay. All you got to do is be like, yeah, you're awesome. You're so hot. You're so brave. You're so smart. Yeah, we're really you over on trade. You know, that's all they need to do. They don't believe it. They don't agree with it. They know he's a dumbass. They know America is unstable. Okay. And you want to know what's really funny about all of this? At a certain point, when we look back at all of the bounties of American empire, especially in the late stage capitalism, the neoliberal post-Reagan era, we got to look back at all this wealth transfer that took place where we generated so much value. Where did it go? Someone's got to ask this question. Trillions of dollars over multiple decades. Where the did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Someone's got to ask that question. Where did it go? Because all of these cheap, affordable goods, they're coming to the United States of America. We're purchasing them. That's fine. You know, that's great. It makes you feel like your living conditions are significantly better. And yet, in that same time frame, we are creating complex financial tools, complex financial technology. We're selling that to the rest of the world. Where is that going? Where is all that bounty going? Where is all that wealth going? Why is it not going back to building the American infrastructure? Why is that not going back to ensuring that Americans have decent paying jobs? All of the raping and pillaging of the entire planet, and none of the bounties, with the exception of affordable treats so that you feel like you are on top. You feel like your living standards are better year over year. This is at the heart of the contradictions within global capitalism. That's it. Yeah, I saw this relevant clip from Jack Ma. Exactly. He's asked a similar question as well. You know, he's gone back and forth on his loyalties. But here, let's hear what he says here.
The Americans said, we just want to control the IP, we just want to have technology, we just want the brand to leave the lower end jobs for the world. Great strategy. The past 30 years, IBM, Cisco, Microsoft, they made tons of money. The profit they made are much more than the 4 largest banks in China. But where did the money go? Past 30 years, the American had 13 wars, spending $14.2 trillion. The money going there. What if they spend a part of that money on building up the infrastructure, helping the white collars and blue collars? No matter how strategy good it is, you're supposed to spend money on your own people. And the other money, which I'm curious about, is that when I was young, I heard America is bad. Ford and Boeing, those big manufacturing companies. The last 10, 20 years, I heard about is Silicon Valley and Wall Street. The money go to the Wall Street. And what happened? Year 2008, the financial crisis wiped out $19.2 trillion USA alone. They wiped out all the white collars and destroyed 34 million jobs globally. So what if the money is not in Wall Street? What if the money spent on the Middle East, Middle West of the United States, developing the industry there? That could be changed a lot. So it's not the other countries steal jobs from you guys. It is your strategy. Okay, but
what do you think?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. It is endless profit seeking that is getting to a stage, endless profit seeking that has caused domestic instability in this country, that is also causing global instability. Because the reality of the matter is, if America wanted to extend a lifeline to American empire, it would at least abide by like Keynesian principles and engage in more redistributive policies in an effort to ensure that it has like at least some semblance of a manufacturing base, or rather good paying jobs and less instability internally in the nation, so that a dumb like Donald Trump couldn't actually rise to power. But these guys are so short-term profit oriented, profit that stays at the top, profit that has to be retained by the most powerful individuals because of their supercharged pro-capitalist dogmatic ways of thinking, that they have basically f***ed it up. They used, abused, and pillaged all the way to the very end. And now we're staring down the barrel of the gun, where the gun is actually being pointed at us. In the process, China was able to take advantage of that situation and the endless appetite for capital owners and the endless defense of capital owners from the American empire to basically say, yeah, we'll manufacture your shit. It's cool. We would love to do that. Thank you for the privilege. Our people are poor. Our people are suffering. We would love to take advantage of the foreign capital that comes into our country. We will, of course, take your IP as well in the process. You already know that that's going to happen. That's basically a handshake deal. And if China had kept up its end of the bargain and remained poor and did not engage in redistributive policies, then America would have been fine with the super profits, or at least would have allowed, at least would have created this imbalanced trade structure. Hey. Fiona, stop. Why does she do this all the time? And she like wags her tail too. Bilmiyorum niye böyle bağırıyor. Hey. Açar mısın şunu? Hadi çıkar. Get out. Fiona is old. She's barking at my dad. Anyway, Kai don't give a... All right, let's continue. Getting back to the matter at hand.
Cabinet.
We think we're in very good shape. We think we're doing very well. Again, there'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
Stock futures are right now up across the board. Let's see if they stay a beautiful thing today. But what is concerning investors a lot right at the moment, the U.S. dollar falling to its weakest level against the euro in 3 years. CNN's Elena Treen at the White House for us once again. CNN's Mark Stewart, we're not letting him go. He's in Beijing for us. Mark, tell us more about China's counterpunch and what it's going to mean.
Hi, Kate. Good morning. Look, none of this is a surprise. These latest tariffs are very much in the Chinese playbook. But what's very attention-getting to me is the fact that China is now saying it's not going to raise tariffs any higher, saying it has other weapons, almost making fun of the United States for raising the stakes, raising the numbers so high. Let me share with you some remarks we got late today from a government official here in Beijing who said that the United States is engaging in nothing more than a numbers game with no real economic significance, going on to say the United States is exposing itself as a participant in weaponizing tariffs as a tool of bullying and coercion, turning itself into a joke. So that is the latest where China stands in this back and forth tit for tat. The other big headline of the
What's
day
up, Beijing?
is that we are hearing from Chinese President Xi Jinping, really the first time since this whole trade war escalated to such a high level. The big headline is that he is saying China is not afraid. These are remarks that were made with the Spanish Prime Minister here in Beijing.
Yeah. What's up? How can anyone look at the situation right now and go, "Oh, dude, we're really long dicking the Chinese right now. We're killing it, dude. We're killing it." Like, how do you look? How can you be so stupid? Like Donald Trump's statements. If you are optics focused, if you're like a animal, okay, barely capable of critical thought, all right, you can still look at the optics of the situation of Donald Trump's attitude shifting dramatically over the course of the past week, where he went from, "We're going to destroy China. China is terrified. They're so scared," to, "Why won't China call me? China, you really need to call me. Please call me, China. China, call me. I've learned Mandarin. I say, what's up, Beijing, too? Call me. Too much winning." Like he literally went from saying China is going to come and eat our ass, they're peasants, to like, "Please call me. It would be really nice if you called me." How is that not triggering any red flags in your mind? You can be the dumbest person on the planet and still recognize when someone is being desperate. And it's not the Chinese that are being desperate in this process. It's crazy. I expect people to at least be like, I don't know, maybe I expect too much from Americans, but I really do. I really do expect people to just like, take their heads out of their a little bit for a brief moment and recognize what is happening right in front of their eyes, Yeah, Victor Gao is popping off. Let's see what he had to say.
The problem is that in this scenario, to use your metaphor, the US has the bigger gun, and so China ends up having more to lose from this trade war, doesn't it? It can't sustain the loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US.
She's trying to come back in here. No, you lost your privileges. She barked. She barked at my dad when he walked in. She barked too much. She was trying to push the gate so that she can come back in here. Bro, the Saudis rode this donkey to the bank. You think Xi and Putin can't? Oh my gosh, she's still trying. Okay, here. No more barking, though. If you bark again, I'm kicking you out. All right, I let her in. She was doing a protective you and you banned her, let her in? No. Look at this. Look at this little baby. Look at this little baby acting like she's all innocent. Do you see this? Are you innocent? Fifi? Fiona! Okay, we gave her the ban appeal. Fifi needs a Gucci bed. She'll be fine. She barks at billionaires. Yeah, she read the AI article that said my dad was the richest person in Turkey and she hates billionaires, so she started barking at him. She changed up. Anyway, let's get back. So the anchor asked, like, don't you think America has a bigger gun in this process? Okay, don't you think America has more to gain from engaging in this back and forth? Let's see what his reaction is.
Ends up having more to lose from this trade war, doesn't it? It can't sustain the loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US.
Not at all. China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was no United States, and we survived. Right. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
The problem is that in this scenario, to use...
I mean, look, this is just posturing. If I'm being really real right now, it's just posturing, okay? They do care because they don't want America to collapse. Because if America collapses, then the entire global trade collapses, which is part of the reason why I think that they will eventually extend a helping hand to the United States of America, and we'll say it's fine. Yes, you did it. You destroyed us in this. You destroyed us in this process. You really did. You killed us. And then all the dumbest people on the planet that keep looking at how the market's turned green today, I guess things are fine, even though basic goods are going to be at least double the price now. Those dumbasses will turn around and be like, we did it. Woo, we did it. We destroyed China. Hell yeah. They're just posturing at this point to show America, but more importantly than the United States of America, America's global trading partners, allies and adversaries, and neutral nations alike, that one of the two polar opposites, okay, the two poles of power on the planet, one spells disorder and instability in the long term, the other will maintain stability. This is an incredible opportunity for China to show everyone, including the EU, for example, that it is the new game in town that will have long-term stability and commitment to long-term stability in mind. I don't know. I think they're serious on their non-interventionist policy. No, I that's what I think too. Why wouldn't China like to be the sole world superpower? Because with great power comes great responsibility. And most importantly, China, it looks within. They don't care. They don't give a shit about having 800 military bases. I mean, what Jack Ma says there is basically Jack Ma being a person who, when he stepped out of line, had to go away for a little bit. But in that moment, he is speaking as a vessel for the Chinese state and their interests. There is no reason to assume that thought is not also reflected by the CPC's attitude in general, which is we care about building cities. We care about improving the material conditions of our citizens more than we care about global dominance, because global dominance requires a ton of money and effort to be spent in the direction of building a robust military apparatus and constantly engaging in interventions all around the globe. They know that. They see America failing right now. It is, I think it quite literally is a matter of thinking in quarters, which is what capitalism forces you to do, as opposed to thinking in centuries.
And according to state media, he said that China is going to continue to remain.
Their lack of interest in global dominance does not stem from the fact that they're magnanimous, dude. It is still a self-interested position. What do you not understand? I'm not saying they're awesome and kind-hearted. This is something that people do not comprehend about it, okay? Their lack of interest in global dominance does not come from how magnanimous they are, okay? Their lack of interest in global dominance comes from self-interest. That's it. It's not altruistic. I've told you time and time again, there is literally a group of people, a group of peasants that are armed and willing to fight against one of the only holdouts in China's backyard, which is an American military base, okay? The Philippines. You have Maoist rebels that are waiting, primed. What does China do? China has helped the Filipino government as opposed to the Maoist rebels. You think America in that situation would not arm the out of those rebels, would not do everything in its power to make sure that those Maoist rebels are primed for overthrowing the Filipino government? Are you kidding me? They're ideologically aligned. They're Maoists. What are we talking about? Why the does China not do that? This is an example that I use all the time. Like, there's no reason. People look at like what they did in Hong Kong or fantasize about what they might do to Taiwan all the time as a reason as to why China has like imperial ambitions. Okay? They care more about stability than anything else. Hassan, you took my $6 lying about TTS. Shut the up and refund it, dumb. Okay? When have you ever heard text-to-speech on this broadcast? I got to change that actually on my stream as well. Like, no one ever really gives donations like that anyway. But imagine chirping about that when you can literally directly access me by just writing in the chat for free and be an annoying little douchebag as you are right now. You know the TTS doesn't work. Last time I used text to speech was 5 years ago. I'm gonna take it out right now. Actually, I'm gonna take it out of my panel right now. Dumb. He's just chirping in here. Take it. Yeah, just refund it. Refund it. Good. Fiona, I will kick you out. I will kick you out. Stop barking. All right, move with you. There you go. I changed it. I said, don't know if you want. I don't care. No TTS. There you go. I hope that's. Comparing 70s China to the USA is crazy talk, dude. You have no idea what you're talking about. Wait, what? 70s China to the United States? When did I do that? By saying they didn't arm Philippines? Do you think the Filipino Maoist rebel groups don't exist currently? I'm talking about what China did under Duterte, where they literally helped the Duterte government. The rebels are still there. And the Chinese government has literally sided with the Duterte government at the time because they thought that would actually be a better method of ensuring that the Filipino government plays ball with them when they're trying to create security cooperation agreements in their own backyard in the South China Sea. That's not in the 70s.
And confident, it's going to remain focused, saying there are no real winners in the trade war. Kate, the language that we're hearing from Xi Jinping is very consistent with what we've heard from other government officials over the last few days. And as you mentioned, as far as the possibility of a phone call between Xi Jinping and President Trump, not in the near future. That's the messaging that we're feeling from Beijing, at least.
And that is quite a statement that you got from that government official. Just, the gloves are off now in terms of how the two sides are going to be talking about it. We will need to stand by and see how Donald Trump responds to that. But also stand by with me, Mark. I'm going to get to the White House and get to Elena Treen here. Elena, are you getting any reaction yet this morning to this escalation from China?
So far, the White House has not responded to the latest remarks from China or from President Xi. But what I will say is that
who is yelling in the background? What is happening? Someone's yelling in the newsroom or they're yelling in the room with Trump. Someone's yelling. I think the peasant stuff was too much of a slap to the face. Yes, but that's good propaganda internally to be like, yeah, there might be a period of downturn, right? But we'll overcome it. But we have to overcome it because these guys are calling you peasants.
the White House has been very dug in on its position as it relates to China. They're acting very defiant in this kind of trade tit for tat that we are seeing. But I think what's been very clear so far, Kate, is that this position is not going to be tenable for much longer. At some point, the two sides are going to need to really open lines of communications. Now, we actually have a story out this morning kind of breaking all of this down. But at the crux of it, Kate, is this. Two White House officials tell me that the president and the U.S. will not reach out to China first. The president has made it clear to his team and to his advisors that he wants China to come to them. And really, he wants to have a high-level meeting.
I told you already, China will. I think China will call first. They'll use this period of instability to show the rest of the world what is going on. They'll use this period of instability to show the world how dangerous and unstable America is. Like, no offense to Sam, but you haven't talked at all about how the fact that the majority of Americans have some obvious racism towards Chinese people. Wait, what? Okay, yeah, they do. How can I have a conversation about, how can we have a conversation about global trade without some radlib coming in here and being like, Americans are very xenophobic. I know, dude. Who cares? Okay, that's not what we're talking about right now. Yeah, I know. Americans are very racist by and large. It is what it is.
Directly between him and President Xi himself. Now, this has been what the White House has been communicating to Beijing for several months now. But on the other side, we also know that Beijing does not really want to have that high-level meeting. What they've been trying to do is open communications at a lower level. And so, really, there's been this stalemate and no talks at all going on right now between the Trump administration and that of...
Like, the American racist attitude towards China is so negligible in this conversation. You think that's the reason why Trump is making these decisions? No, that's just a marketing technique that will, just like the peasant statement is a great opportunity for the Chinese government to tell its citizenry to remain strong in the face of oppression, because a big part of Chinese development comes off of, a big part of why they love Mao, a big part of Chinese development comes off of the backs of a century of humiliation from Western powers, okay, and of course Japan as well, but like that in and of itself is something that's very important. So it's a galvanizing factor there. But the real reasons as to why these great powers behave in the ways that they do is not because of fucking racism. I would go so far as to say it's still very much the fear of losing capitalism and the dominance of capital, global capital, more so than racism against the Chinese or Orientalism. Racism against the Chinese for the average citizen allows, I don't know, like the Asmongold chat to keep masturbating to a world that does not exist, where America is still America is still very powerful and not the declining empire of belligerent morons, you know? That's it. It helps the dumbass Americans go, yeah, well, you know, things are like $30 more. A t-shirt now costs $78, but let me tell you, okay, it's still fine because my dear leader's still going to show what's what to the goddamn Chinese. Base material, dude, you are so uneducated and weak on Maoism in China. Maoism is Stalinism in China today is not socialist. They are capitalist. Oh my God, dude. I'm not saying China today is Maoist, you dingus. Of course it's not Maoist. Their socialist attitude has evolved over time. It does not matter if a government actually had interest in foreign intervention. There are still existing Maoist rebel groups that they could use to their advantage to destabilize foreign countries in their backyard and potentially even overthrow. If they wanted to do America, there is plenty of opportunity for China to do America with ideologically aligned movements, militia movements. My statement on the unwillingness of the modern Chinese government in engaging in this sort of intervention is the point. That is the point. Yes, they're not Maoist. Mao Zedong thought still influences a lot of the underpinning of Chinese attitudes and Chinese development, Chinese prosperity, but it's not a complete Maoist country. It's not at all. And no, I don't think Maoism is Stalinism. Maoism is Stalinism. I am a liberal.
President Xi. Now,
what is it with leftists and their obsession with Marxist orthodoxy, despite the fact that China itself is adhering to Marxism by examining their own material conditions? I mean, it's ironic because, like, in some ways, I understand why you would hold on to a mythological understanding of what previous relatively successful socialist experiments have looked like. I get it, because it's not like we have living, breathing socialism here in the United States of America. So you look to historical examples of where socialism has been attempted. Okay. A socialist transitional state has been attempted. This is, you know, USSR is, I think, a valid project to point to. But then, ironically enough, that person then turns around and goes, but they haven't adhered to the principled Marxist orthodoxy. When you talk about Stalin's attempts or Mao's attempts, like, they're not also adhering to principled Marxist orthodoxy either. And they shouldn't, regardless. There is, like, I think it's kind of silly to have this attitude. You have to ultimately adhere to your living, breathing, existing material conditions and restructure your attitude. This is precisely the reason why I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, they're not a fully, you know, they're not completely controlled by the workers, you know, or whatever the it's like, well, they're doing a lot better than we are. Okay.
Hurdle of
nor did Lenin. Traditional Marxist Orthodox thought Germany is where the revolution would start. I think that was a fair assessment, to be fair. I think that was a fair assessment to make at the time.
We're hearing behind the scenes here at the White House is that the president believes that President Xi does not want to be seen as weak. And that's really as well kind of what's coming into this refusal and waiting to see who blinks first here. Now, we've also heard President Donald Trump say that he is confident that he can reach a deal at some point. He said that he believes China will come around. He said China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how to go about it. They're proud people.
I love the conversations that we're having in here right now about like whether China has a principled Maoist stance, okay, or if it's evolved in a direction that you don't think is appropriate, even though I haven't seen you attempt living, breathing, existing socialism, okay? But meanwhile, our leadership in the United States of America is like, they're gonna call me tomorrow. Like, we are led by delusional morons, okay? And you guys over here are talking about like, I'm a left com, or I'm an orthodox Marxian and I don't think that China is doing enough or whatever it's like, dude, shut up. Just analyze what is in front of us, okay? Eyes on the prize, guys.
We've heard similar rhetoric from some of his top economic advisors saying that the ball is now in China's court. It's clear that's not how China sees this, but I think the key question now moving forward is that really how this all is decided is going to be on how much
0.0001% of communism has been built. Keep at it, comrades. Yes.
Pain are they willing to take? How much more pain are they willing to see in this escalation of these tariffs without any real communications to ensure there's an off-ramp?
Yeah, exactly. How much pain is the Trump administration willing to endure, and also the American people? How much pain is China willing to endure as well? Elena, stick with me. Mark, in this moment, this tit for tat has been going on now, for quite some time.
Yeah. No, it's Republicans. I say your enemies in China is global capital. And this person quote tweeted me and said, no, it's Republicans. Yeah, dude. Thank you for this assessment. I loved Republicans. So I'm glad. Asmigel suddenly watching China Observer content about how the U.S. tariffs are already causing the collapse of Chinese factories. He has no defense about even the most obvious propaganda. It's awesome. Yes, it's copium. They're engaging in copium. The problem is, the more copium that you inhale, okay, the more copium that you inhale, the more delusional you become and the more confused you become when things don't pan out the way that you expect them to. Ultimately, there is one thing that you cannot overcome, though. No matter how much crack cocaine you smoke, in the form of China is collapsing any day now style content, which many liberals have consumed in perpetuity, there is going to come a breaking point. There's going to be a moment where you overdose, where you look at your bank account and realize that your money is no longer going the way that it did, okay?